Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Lies, Lost and Found, The Lake Amelia Mysteries by Jacqueline Boulden, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Present Day. Rose Webster flicked her wrist and struck a match against the dark brown strip on the side of the box. The flame flared, dimmed, then began its journey down the wooden stick, heading closer to Rose's fingers. She held it against a small bundle of sage until it caught fire, smoldering and sending a small plume of smoke into the air. After giving it enough time to burn, she blew out the flame. Then she walked around her father's den, waving the smoking sage in the air, clearing the room of negative energy, negative memories. No one had used the room much since he passed 15 years ago, felled by a heart attack no one saw coming. His impressive oak desk dominated the room, with wall-to-wall bookshelves behind it and along the opposite wall. The bookshelves weren't empty now. The desk had been cleared out long ago, but painful memories remained. The most painful was discovering her father had another daughter. Rose had learned that shocking news recently. Some days it felt like a lifetime ago, and some days it felt like yesterday. Rose and her brother Kirk had inherited their childhood home in Lake Amelia after their mother had passed a few weeks ago. Kirk lived in Florida and didn't care whether Rose sold the house or lived in it. Rose wasn't ready to decide. Her home and career as a photojournalist were in Philadelphia, although she couldn't work right now because of injuries suffered during a recent assignment. If she stayed in Lake Amelia for much longer, maybe even picking up some freelance jobs when she could work again, she wanted to use more of the house, including the first floor den. First, she had to make it her own. Sweeping the room with sage did more than clear any lingering negative energy. The earthy aroma invigorated Rose and sharpened her mind, helping her to focus on positive thoughts despite her lingering fears that her injuries might not heal well enough to return to the demanding work of a news photographer. Once she'd covered every inch of the room with the healing fragrance, she left the sage bundle smoldering in the kitchen sink. She opened the cupboard underneath the sink, grabbed a rag and the Murphy oil soap, and returned to the den where she wiped down the bookcases on the wall opposite the desk. She crossed the room and knelt carefully without putting much weight on her right arm. As she wiped a lower shelf, her hand hit a bump. Actually, it felt more like a round button, cool to her touch. Not wood. Maybe brass? She pressed it and pulled her arm back when a section of the wall popped open. What the heck? Rose reached into the compartment, ran her fingers around the inside, and pulled out an envelope. The flap gaped open, revealing a wad of money. She gasped and fell back as if shoved. Rose stared at the cash, then pushed herself off the floor and dropped into the chair behind the desk. She turned the envelope over in her hands. It had no writing on the outside. When she flipped it upside down, $100 bills cascaded onto the desk along with a folded piece of paper. Although eager to count the cash, Rose unfolded the note first. The person either had poor handwriting or had scribbled the message in a hurry. My investigation must be making someone nervous. It's not just that someone ran my vehicle off the road the other day. Someone broke into my apartment. I'm pretty sure I'm onto something. They've tried to hurt me. I'm terrified. They know where I live and where I work. I need to disappear. I hope you'll use this to continue the investigation. Rose's father, Randall Webster, had been a successful attorney and advocate for working-class people in the growing immigrant population in upstate New York. He didn't take on domestic cases, divorces, family disputes, those sort of things. What was this about? What was the money for? And why did Dad stash it at home instead of in the safe in his office near Saratoga Springs? If the money was for a case her father had been working on, was it even legal for him to keep the money at home? What other secrets were you keeping, Dad? Ben Franklin stared back at Rose. Many Ben Franklins. Rose had never seen so many $100 bills. To be honest, she'd never even held one. She pushed the bills into a pile, then picked them up and counted as she laid each one back on the desk. When she reached $5,000, she paused and took a deep breath. Was she halfway through the stack? At $8,000, she took another deep breath and slowly counted out the remaining bills until she laid down the very last one. Holy crap, Dad, what were you doing with $10,000